And thank you. I think that's all of the questions that we have on food and other related issues at the moment, but don't run away as we expect to have more. And as I said, if colleagues across government can keep an eye on the Q&A chat and answer questions as and when they come up. Thank you very much. I think then we're moving on now to the Department of Transport and to our colleague Mike Head to take us through some highlights there. Thank you, Mike.
Margaret, I can't actually see that Mike is on the line.
All right. If Mike hasn't joined us, at the risk of everybody getting a little tired listening to me, I can run through this detail. If we could move on to the next slide, please. And if Mike joins, Natasha, please do let me know. Thank you. So as many of you will be aware, there are negotiations going on with the EU. And in February 2020, the UK and the EU both published their mandate for free trade agreement negotiations. The UK set out their ambition to ensure that both UK and EU road transport operators can continue to provide services in each other's territories. We wanted to make sure that all can freely operate across the two territories. And I think the EU and the UK agree on the importance of this, the need to secure unlimited permit-free rights to each other's territories. And in addition to the point-to-point, or what they call bilateral transport, and of course the transit movements, the UK is open to discussion of any additional rights that would offer economic and environmental benefits, such as cabotage and cross-trade. We're aware that these provide benefits to UK and the significant number of EU hauliers that travel through GB day in, day out. We're conscious of our reliance on this. So the government will communicate arrangements that inform EU operators how to prepare for the end of the transition period as soon as we can, and it will cover changes to documentation requirements and types of journeys. I appreciate it's difficult that we can't say more now, but of course it is all tied up with the negotiations, as we know, that are ongoing. But at the Department of Transport has made a very clear commitment to share that information as and when they can. I'm also aware that the Department of Transport and colleagues in our Border and Protocol Delivery Group are working on a haulier handbook that sets out all of the requirement and details that hauliers are going to need from the 1st of January. All of those pieces of paper and all of that detail or electronic declarations that you're going to need to cross borders. That is being finalised as we speak. And that is in addition to all of the information on gov.uk, but the aim is to pull it all in together for one haulier handbook to tell you everything you needed to know for moving goods. If we could move on to the next slide, please. One of the things that Great Britain is very keen to do is to ensure that fluidity at the border. We recognise that, of course, that a truck leaving, a HGV leaving UK is bound for the EU from many of our ports, and the haulier and others, the importers and exporters, will need to have done the necessary EU requirements. So they don't want borders and key ports blocked up with lorries that aren't quite ready. So to help with this, we've developed a service called the Check a HGV is Ready to Cross the Border service. Forgive the lack of a snappy title, but it sets out what it does really. It's a service that allows the haulier or the driver to look through the detail and check that they have everything they need for the EU importer. So if they're leaving a port in Great Britain and going to the EU, they should, in some parts, use this service to check that they've got all of the documentation in place before they go to the port. It's going to be introduced for roll-on, roll-off freight leaving Great Britain, as I said, for the EU. It will be a requirement in Kent. So for those HGVs over 7.5 tons that are travelling out from the port of Dover or Eurotunnel, they will have to use this service. They will log on, use the service, say whether they've got all of the documents they need to, and if they complete all of those answers and say yes to having the requirements, they will be issued with a Kent access permit, and that allows them to travel through Kent and down to the port of Dover or to Eurotunnel. There is a demonstration site of this service available now. There is a link at the bottom of this slide, and we will also post it in the chat, and as I said, we will be sharing the slides with you. But for those hauliers that are using British ports, you would need to, I think it'd be useful to look at this and get familiar with it. It's fairly straightforward. It just asks whether you've got the import declarations and the safety and security declarations for the EU and those kind of questions. There is an option if the truck is empty or not. So we think we've covered everything. We're building it with hauliers, both here and in the EU, and we're taking feedback through the testing that we do on it. So that will be in place from the 1st of January. And as I said, those hauliers driving through Kent will need to have used this site and got the Kent access permit. It will be available at all ports in Great Britain, and it should be used when using all ports in Great Britain, but it will be compulsory in Kent, and there may be a fine if you do not use it. On to the next slide, please. You'll remember last year, perhaps in the run-up to what was going to be perhaps no deal, the Kent Resilience Forum and other government departments worked together with the Department of Transport to implement a system of traffic management across Kent known as Operation Brock. And that is designed to manage the traffic. That will be in place from the 1st of January as needed. The legislation is being updated in the UK. It is combined with the service I talked about a moment ago, checking a HGV is ready to cross the border, and as I said, it will be mandatory down there. There will be a procedure whereby we can prioritise HGVs that are carrying live and fresh seafood and day-old chicks. Those lorries would need to be full of seafood and day-old chicks. It is not sufficient to have one pallet of such in one of these trucks, but those goods can be prioritised and moved through the Operation Brock queues as required, and there will be legislation in place to support that. The detail is being worked through, but it is likely to involve trucks carrying those goods, gathering together at a particular site and being taken through Operation Brock. We're looking at the road layouts in Kent to make sure that Operation Brock flows well. And we will continue to provide updates on that as and when it becomes ready. I think that's the last of the slides from our colleagues in Department of Transport. I will pick up any questions that I can see in the Q&A later on, but without lingering too long on this subject, I think now I'd like to hand over to our colleague from the Department of Business to talk us through basic goods on the market. If I can hand over to you, Ben, thank you.